Chapter 4 On the precariousness of the monastic life when it is not based on the commandments of the gospel. He who has based his life on the study of the gospel and the practice of the commandments of the gospel has based it on solid rock. In whatever predicament he is placed by the circumstances of life, his task is always with him. Footnote. In other words, he is always in the arena. There is always scope for his enterprise, and he makes capital out of everything. Getting back to the text. He is constantly active, constantly struggling, constantly progressing, although his activity, his struggle, and his progress are unnoticed and incomprehensible to others. Whatever troubles and trials he may encounter, they can never defeat him. The Lord said, "Whoever hears these sayings of mine and does them, I will liken to a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain descended, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on the house, and it did not fall, for it was founded on the rock." Footnote. Matthew 7:24-25. Here life and the set of the soul are compared to a house. This house acquires extraordinary stability from the infinite, divine power with which Christ's words are charged. It is evident that the strength that the practice of Christ's commandments wins for the soul can be won by no other means or method. Christ's power acts in his commandments. To the words just quoted, the Lord added the following: "But everyone who hears these sayings of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain descended, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, and it fell, and great was its fall." Footnote. Matthew 7:26-27. Easily ruined is the seemingly good life of those who make their foundation an exclusively bodily struggle, or even a series of ascetic exercises, sometimes very difficult and remarkable, but who do not pay due attention to the commandments of the gospel. Very often ascetics do not pay the least attention to the commandments of the gospel, openly disregard them and do not value them, or realize their importance in the least. When such ascetics encounter unexpected trials and temptations, or an unforeseen change in their life, not only is their faith soon shaken, but they even run the risk of that complete moral collapse. That is called in the gospel the great ruin of the house of the soul. Let us take as an example a hermit living in profound solitude, who has put all his hope of success and salvation in that solitude. Suppose that suddenly this hermit is obliged by force of circumstances to leave his solitude and live among crowds. Being unfortified by the commandments of the gospel, he is bound to be exposed to the violent impact of the temptations that are encountered so abundantly in human society. That is natural. He had no other power to protect him except outward solitude. Deprived of that, he is deprived of all support and must of necessity yield to the power of other outward impressions. This is not said in the least to disparage the solitary life that guards against temptations and distractions, and that specially facilitates the study and practice of the commandments of the gospel. It is said so that even a hermit in his solitude may take particular care to study and practice the gospel commandments, by means of which Christ, the power of God, and the wisdom of God, footnote 1 Corinthians 1:24, is installed in his soul. Footnote John 14:23. True Christianity and true monasticism consist in the practice of the commandments of the gospel. Where this practice is absent, there is neither Christianity nor monasticism, whatever the outward appearance may be. The righteous shall inherit the land and dwell therein forever. Footnote Psalm 36:29. Scripture calls the righteous those who try in the most careful manner to carry out truly and solely the righteous will of God. not at all their own erroneous, apparently righteous will. Only those who fulfill God's righteousness can inherit the land, that is to say, can rule or get dominion over their own heart, their flesh, their blood. The mouth of the righteous is exercised in wisdom. Footnote. The mouth of the soul is the eyes. Just as food enters the body through the mouth, so knowledge enters the soul through the eyes. And his tongue will be talking of judgment. The law of his God is in his heart, and his footsteps shall not slide. Footnote. Psalm 36, 30-31.